What's happening inside Iran has very much to do with the current state of the United States economy and inflation, which is what voters regularly tell us in all kinds of polling they would like to see the president focused on, not necessarily the military conflict. With us now is CNN chief data analyst Harry Enten. So what am I talking about there? When it comes to inflation, which is something that every poll tells us that Americans care about, how's the president doing?
Yeah, okay. Americans say inflation is the number one issue facing them right now. And to quote the great Happy Gilmore, according to them, the price is wrong when it comes to the president of the United States. Just take a look at these net approval ratings when it comes to inflation. The president of the United States is hitting all-time record lows in all of these polls, and all of them. NBC came out yesterday, 36 points underwater. CBS came out a few weeks ago, 38 points underwater. Ipsos, Reuters, 43 points underwater. CNN came out earlier this month, 45 points underwater. And taking the cake is UMass Amherst, 47 points underwater across all of these polls. Trump is in his worst position ever on the issue that the American people say over and over and over again is their key number one issue.
Was it always thus?
No, it wasn't this always thus, Mr. Berman. And this is what is so amazing to me. I mean, these shifts that we're just seeing, my goodness gracious. Voters on Trump and inflation. In the 2024 election, remember, Trump got reelected to a second term, and Joe Biden got pushed to the curb in large part because Americans felt he couldn't handle inflation. Trump was more trusted than Kamala Harris on inflation by 7 points. Look at his net approval right now. You average all those polls on the first side of your screen, 42 points underwater. That is a nearly 50-point shift away from the president of the United States.
A nearly 50-point shift. That's bad. What's worse?
Yeah, what's worse? You think this is bad, a nearly 50-point shift. How about a 70-point shift? I'm laughing because you never see numbers like this. Look at this. Independence on Trump and inflation. In the 2024 election versus Harris, Trump was favored by 10 points. Down he goes. Down he goes. He's down to 60 points underwater on inflation. That is a 70-point shift in a little bit less than 2 years worth of time. John Berman and I are big baseball fans. And I will tell you, I'm going to go to Trump's home borough in Queens because, to be honest, it's the only comparison I can think of. Donald Trump is in worse shape on inflation right now than the New York Metropolitans are in the NL East. That is how bad. And what, the Mets just lose their 11th straight game?
At a certain point, you stop counting because there's so many. There's two things I just want to point out quickly here. The two words that matter so much here are, independence and inflation. These are two areas the president did well on in the last election.
He did well. This is what is happening here. The strengths that Donald Trump once had with the electorate, the things that got him elected to a second term, you can wave adios amigos goodbye to them. And why that's so important is even though Trump isn't on the ballot come November, a lot of Republicans in Congress are on the ballot, and if these numbers hold, you can wave adios amigos, goodbye, see you later, certainly that House majority, and maybe that Senate majority as well.
Harold Enten, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're joined now by Republican Congressman Marlin Stutzman of Indiana. Congressman, we're grateful to you for being here with us on a Sunday night. Thank you so much. We just heard from my colleague Harry Enten there talking about that key issue of inflation. We obviously have midterms coming up. Every Republican House member will be having to run for re-election if they are choosing to do so. Are you concerned about where the president is with voters on inflation?
Good evening, Jessica. Yes, absolutely. It is a concern because I think a lot of it comes from the gas pump. We were getting used to that $2 range for gas prices. And with the conflict in Iran, that's obviously pushed the gas prices up. And I think a lot of that, just hits all of us right back to where we were feeling the hurt before after the years of inflation coming off the Biden administration. But I think, yes, I was talking to a couple of folks today in my district that are in retail around tourism, and they're actually having a good year. They said they're actually above where they were at last year. And so I think there's a little bit of inconsistencies. It depends where you're at probably in the country. But here in the Midwest, in Northeast Indiana, things are relatively stable. But obviously those numbers there are concerning. We want to be sure that we address those issues because I still believe that the pocketbook issues really do drive the elections.
And so when you're talking to your constituents about that, when you're back in your district like you are right now, what are you saying to them when they're asking you about those pocketbook issues? When they're saying either, I need these prices to keep coming down, what are you doing to make sure things are more affordable? How do you explain that to them?
Yeah, well, the biggest ones that kind of came in late off the inflation numbers were insurance prices. We saw premiums go up over the past couple of years, and that was kind of like the end of the tail coming off the inflationary period when it was really bad in 21, 22, and 23. And so that's kind of like that thing that hit us over the head here at the end. And of course, with gas prices back up. But one of the things I tell them is that what we passed in the big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut Act, it really is going to make a difference. We know one thing, that the prices on food and gas and energy costs, utilities have gone up, but taxes are going to stay the same or go lower. On average, Hoosiers should see almost a $3,000 net loss to their net decline in their taxes. So that's going to help, but there's still a lot of work to do. I know here in our state in Indiana, Governor Braun is addressing the utility costs that have really surprised all of us over the winter. I know it was a hard winter, but it still seems like these big companies, utilities, insurance, healthcare, their costs have gone up. And as I tell these insurance companies, they better do something, or else the government and Congress, they're going to address it. And it's not always going to be the easiest thing to handle.
Let me ask you about the consequences of this war, not just the loss of life, the loss of innocent life, the loss of the lives of, U.S. military members. But the Energy Secretary said that Americans could be stuck paying more than $3 per gallon of gas until next year. He had earlier predicted that would sort of end this summer. What does this mean to your constituents? Because he also said that they've managed this situation fantastically. Is that how you see it?
They've managed the situation fantastically. They started a war that nobody wanted and didn't even figure out that Iran was going to close the strait. I mean, they have not managed anything well whatsoever. And for the American consumer, we just can't afford higher prices at the pump. I mean, no one around here is saying, oh, I have the room in my budget to pay more on gas, to pay more on heating oil, to pay more for electricity. But that's where this is all headed. Prices are going up at a time when Americans can't afford basic needs. We've already seen airlines go out of business. The oil shortages that have hit Asia are likely to expand across the world because it's a fluid market. And so when there are shortages in Asia, oil is going to get diverted from the United States and Europe to meet those shortages. That means prices go up everywhere else. But there's another thing that we don't talk about, which is that Trump has come to Congress to ask for $200 billion to pay for this. Now, $200 billion, I mean, we throw billions of dollars around Washington all the time. 200 doesn't sound like that much. Let's put this in concrete terms. For the average American taxpayer, $200 billion is about $1,400. So if I go to anyone in the United States, whether you're a liberal Democrat or a MAGA Republican, and I say, would you like to pay $1,400 out of your checkbook to pay for a war in Iran? I don't think anyone's going to say that's a good idea.
CNN's David Goldman is joining me now. Okay, first of all, of course Donald Trump is going to say he's totally wrong because it's a terrible number. Nobody wants to see above $3 a gallon on average, and right now we're at $4. Where are we headed?
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to know if right is right or right is wrong, and I think that the big question is how long does this last, right? We've been talking about this for weeks on end now. So if the path of gas prices continues, and we are seeing them drop like a little feather, and we're down about 10 cents from the peak, well, we could see, as Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, said in a prediction the other day, well, yeah, maybe we'll see gas prices with a 3 in front of it in the summer. We could see it really, really soon. If that is a 3 with a couple zeros after it, Chris Wright is saying not till next year. President Trump says sooner. I don't know. That is a bold prediction given everything that's going on. I think Wright might be right in this debate here.
I mean, look, we are all waiting to see what happens, but clearly the markets are responding yet again. It's a yo-yo. Although, I don't know if this is surprising or not, but the markets have gained a lot. You know what I mean? As they're going up and down, they still sort of ended up quite high at a time when we were in such uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, the stock market is divorced from the reality of the situation right now. I think it's pretty clear that if you want to look at what is actually going on, the oil market is going to be a little bit of your better gauge here. Here's why. The oil market is trading a commodity that people use. We make it into gasoline, things like that. And so it's actually selling at a price that people are saying, I want to purchase this thing for. Stocks are doing something completely divorced from that, right? What they're saying is, what traders are saying is that we're going to put this Iran war to the side, and what we're going to be more concerned about is earnings and what these companies are producing. That's a very, very different situation from whether or not this war is going to cause gas prices to go up or not.
That is a very good way to talk about it, because there's the stock market and the companies that may not have anything to do with this, and then there's oil. And we're looking at it. I think the last time we talked on Friday, it was like 80s, in the 80s per gallon or per barrel. Now it's 90 something.
That's right.
So it's gone up dramatically.